Now, all year long, we've been talking about how to develop our economy through adding value to the products that we see all over the country. And there's a young woman in this space thriving that we can all learn from. Her name is Mildred Akotia, and she's the founder of Royal Cedars. There's a food processing company. If you go to some of the top supermarkets in the country, you see her cashew nuts, you see her packaged peanuts, you see her agushi, and I know a lot of you are always curious, how are people able to take some of these products from their raw form and they end up in our supermarkets and we all enjoy it? Through our conversation with her, you can ask questions or, celebrate her in a beautiful way. Use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and our WhatsApp line 0550585832. So if you're outside Ghana and you're watching us, just use the country code +233 and I will receive your messages. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jiva.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity given me.
Thank you for being here. Now, Royal Cedars, you have to tell us a bit about it before we even get into your life.
Sure. So Royal Cedars is a West African-inspired food brand. We are on a mission to create an export market for our indigenous Ghanaian and West African foods. And we are also, so basically, I realized that there's very little representation of West African foods on the Western shelves. I mean, when you go to the UK and the US, you find all sorts of ethnic foods. You will find the Chinese food, you would find the Italian food, you will find all sorts of food, Indian food and all that. However, there was very little representation of West African foods. And I believe that we have a lot of nutritious foods that I call superfoods that I think that we should make a lot of noise about. But as usual, if we have very good things, we always, shelve them and rather have a palette for international things. So I decided that why not start a journey that will bring out some obscure West African foods, foods that have not been heard by the Western world, and transform them into some brands that will be, internationally recognized. So that's how I started the journey.
And we're so thankful because we're all enjoying it. But talk to us about your life. Where did you grow up? How was life like as a child?
So Mildred, I come from a very modest background. I come from a family of 6.
Wow.
And I'm the last child. The last child means a lot. It means that sometimes you get pushed over a bit. I got beaten a couple of times by my brother.
I hope it toughened you.
Quite often. And you get to do all the, the work that your older siblings wouldn't love to do. But the positive aspect of being the last child is that the older ones go through the mill, get refined, learn, gain a lot of experiences, make some mistakes, and as a last child, you sit back, you watch all that, and you learn so much from their mistakes. So by the time you are ready to make certain strategic decisions in your life, most of these things are very easy because you have people to hold your hands and to get you there. My father was a retired Navy commander, and he was a typical military man, so you understand what that means as well.
How was life like with him?
I mean, this is a father who would, on returning from work or from the golf course, he played golf. When he was about 100 meters away from home, he would start honking.
Hey.
And as soon as you hear the honk, it meant that somebody had to go straight to the gate to open it. And while one person was attending to the gates, the rest of us would be rushing everywhere at home, trying to put
everything in order
and putting some sanity back into the house. So by the time he gets home, everything is organized. It's in order, everything is in place. So that's the kind of childhood I had. My mom was a nursing tutor at the nursing training college, Kolibu, and she was a very strict woman, the prayer warrior of the house, and she dragged us to church every day, very often, just to instill some Christian values. So childhood was fun, ups and downs, but through it all, it was fun. I have very fond memories of childhood.
And you went to Wesley's Girls?
Yes, I did. I went to Wege.
How was that experience like?
For me, Wesley Girls will have a special place in my heart. I mean, throughout my life. I had heard a lot of amazing things about the school. The fact that the ladies who attended Wesley Girls were very well managed, were very well poised, very confident, and all that. And as a very young woman at the age of 15, I actually knew what I wanted.
Oh, what was that?
So I mean, all these values I mentioned about the school, I knew I wanted them. I knew it would help me for my personal development.
Yeah.
So I wanted it, and I made a decision to attend Wesley Girls. And by God's grace, I got very good grades for my BSc. So at the time, there were 10 subjects, and I got all 10 ones.
Wow.
So it was very easy for me to get into Wesley Girls, and it was very easy as well for me to read science. So I was a pure science student. I read biology, chemistry, physics, and elective maths, all the strong subjects that people run away from.
Did you enjoy it?
I really did. I had some experiences about Wesley Girls where, you know, some of the first few experiences were that you were apportioned a part of a gutter or bathroom, and you had to scrub it and make sure it was spick and span. I mean, you had to scrub with your scrubbing brush, with your toothbrush, used toothbrushes, with stones or anything that you could lay your hands on, just to make sure that it was spick and span and ready for inspection. And
wow.
By the time I was leaving Wesley Girls, I had a sense of self-worth. I had a sense of discipline. I had a sense of punctuality, and the headmistress at the time, Mrs. Nancy Thompson, kept re-emphasizing the fact that the only limitation you have is what you have in your mind.
Yeah.
The math or science or whatever we thought was difficult was never a purview for boys or for men.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody could do anything under the sun once you put your mind to it. So for me, Wesley Girls was what shaped me and prepared me for the rest of the world.
Wow. And at that time, what did you think you would become when someone asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
For me, it was medical school or medical school. I mean, everything was medical school. I was on a journey to get into medical school and to be a medical doctor. And so from Wesley Girls, I gained admission into the University of Ghana. On the quest to become a medical doctor, I put in so much effort, studied hard, studied with guys who were, you know, then we call them shacks. I mean, we studied into the night. All the efforts I put in, my dreams didn't see the light of day.
Wow.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, now that I sit here.
At
the time, my dreams were shattered. I was disappointed because I didn't have a backup plan. Yeah. It was just medicine. I mean, the ambition was to be a medical doctor.
Why? Why did you want to be a medical doctor so badly?
I think I was very much into these reality shows where they would show foreign reality shows where they would show
Grey's Anatomy and all those.
Yes, like Grey's Anatomy, and then all these medical things. So I got really fascinated about these, and I really, really wanted to get it. I saw myself as a pediatrician, you know, taking care of kids, and I loved kids. So it all got shattered as a young woman. I didn't know where to turn to. I had to pick up the pieces and move on.
And is it correct to say that was your first time facing failure at that level? And what did that teach you about yourself? And how were you able to get back up?
Okay, so I think, yes, that was my real first failure, I would say, because life had been smooth. I mean, through primary, JSS, it's secondary school, it was smooth. I mean, you do well, you're one of the best in class, you get your good grades and all that. And then as things progressed, you know, it got harder, and then you had to put in more, and average wasn't, you know, enough. So that was my real first failure, and I was so shattered. But with the help of family, friends, counselors, I was able to put myself back together, and it taught me a lot that you have to keep your options open. My family always taught me that I was very, very, you know,
rigid, like, yes, I have to get on this path. I
really had to do medicine, and that was all. But when that happened to me, that was when I sat back and I said that in life you have to be open-minded. You don't always get what you want. You don't always, you know, things don't go as planned all the time. But whatever happens, everything adds up to tell a good story. So I was able to pick myself back and move on.
Now, how did you end up in the food space? Because if you guys see the manufacturing plant she has in her home, like she turned, what is it called?
It's a 40-footer container that we transformed.
I mean, that in itself is an innovation. Before we even get to the products here, how did you end up in the food space, food processing space?
So after I got shattered, my dreams got shattered for medical school, I found a new love. So I found food. So during my university education, I did an internship at the Ghana Standards Authority, and I happened to be in the food and drinks lab. And then I started, warming up and starting to love food. I had a few holidays in the UK, but I didn't have any work experience. So right after my first degree, I took a working holiday visa. And for the first time, I started working in the UK, and it was in McVitie's.
Nice.
You know, McVitie's
we all eat all their
digestives and Jaffa cakes and all that.
Very few of us can say we've worked there. How was that experience like?
So McVitie's was very close to the house. It was just about 100, 150 meters from home. And I would walk to work, and I saw myself as a very young person amidst all these other people who were working. I mean, as a source of livelihood, I thought that I was just gaining experience to move on. So that wasn't my permanent place. So as a young woman in McVitie's, there was a very huge plant, and I took the time to observe things, to look at structures, to look at systems, and to look at factory layouts and all that, because I knew that was going to help me. And aside that, during my master's, I also had a master's degree in the University of Nottingham, and that also gave me an opportunity to do my research at Heinz. Okay.
How was that experience
and
like?
Heinz,
First of all, how was your master's degree experience?
It was beautiful. For the first time, so the master's was in food production management, and that was basically a combination of food science and business management. Okay,
nice. So you get the business hat and the science hat.
For the first time, I was being introduced to something else that I wasn't, familiar with. Aside, I've been a pure science student all my life. Yeah. So for the first time, I was being introduced to quality management, supply chain management, facilities management, project management, and I thought, oh, this is a beautiful combination, and it was all working out towards exactly what I wanted to do eventually. So, now that I sit back, I know that everything has contributed towards, making me and the person I am.
The big boss in the food processing space you are today.
I'll get there.
But let's talk about the Heinz experience. And viewers, we're talking to Mildred Akotia. She's the founder of Royal Cedars. If you go to the leading supermarkets across the country, you see her cashew nuts, you see her peanuts, you see her agushi. Initially, she wanted to be a medical doctor, but now she's found herself in the food processing space, and she's thriving. And I know a lot of you are curious about opportunities in that sector. We're always talking about our agric space, the need to really innovate the agric sector to a point where we are making value-added products so that we get more money from it. Far too long, we always export raw materials out of the country. We're always at the bottom of the supply chain. Other people process these raw materials, and then we import them back into the country for 10, 20 times the price. And this young woman, this Ghanaian woman, is fixing this problem that successive governments have been talking about for years, and she's thriving. So if you have any questions or contributions to the conversation, please use the hashtag BreakfastDaily, and the WhatsApp line is 0550 585-832. If you're outside Ghana, just use the country code +233, and we will receive your messages. Heinz, how was your experience there like?
It was amazing. Heinz is the biggest food processing facility in the UK. So you can imagine. They did from pouches to cans to every Heinz product, So the baked beans, for the first time, I saw how baked beans was made. Wow. And I had the opportunity to make my own baked beans.
How was that like for you?
I thought, whoa, this is a product that we've all enjoyed in our salads and for our breakfast and all that. I didn't know I would come so up close with the product and actually have hands-on experience making it myself. So during my research, I made a lot of that. Wow. And it was beautiful. There were lots of people to assist you and to help you get your research carried out well. I learned a lot of systems, food safety systems, operating procedures, and how to get things done consistently all the time. And I think for me, that experience was invaluable.
So Mildred, a lot of young Ghanaians leave the country. First of all, even when they're on working visas, they don't come back. They're like, listen, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to stay abroad. If they go to do their masters, most of them don't come back. What made you decide, I'm going to come back home, I'm going to really develop what I've discovered in this food processing space, and I'm going to go for it?
So the dream has always been, from the start of, beginning to love food, I knew that I had to come back to contribute my quota. And the Western world is already developed.
Yeah.
They already have their systems. They already have efficiency in processing, beautiful packaging. I mean, now packaging has gone beyond just containment of food to so much more. There are squeezable containers, easy open containers. I mean,
Environmentally friendly containers.
Environmentally friendly. There are all sorts of things about packaging. But so I thought that, I mean, if you find yourself in a very well established place, all systems ticked, you know, it's just cruise control. I mean, why would you stay in a place like that when where you come from needs so much help? So that was my motivation to come back and to in my small way, contribute to getting us there.
So we're looking at some of your stuff from your beautiful manufacturing plant. Walk us through the importance of paying attention to packaging when we talk about made in Ghana goods, because you are one of the few brands that's really winning in that space. Aside how the quality, listen, I eat her nuts and I've not found one bad nut yet. So it's not just the packaging.
Thank you very much.
No pressure.
Yes, I understand. So I would say systems, putting systems in place. And for me, with my background, I understand innovative packaging. I understand how good packaging means. And I always say that packaging is your first impressions about anything. The way you address tells a lot about you. And it's the same way with food. I mean, the way it's packaged is the first thing that attracts you or, you know, makes you ignore the product. So your packaging must be able to stand tall on the shelf and should be able to speak loud enough for people to get close to it. Yeah. And for me, that's the number one thing. And I believe that we are doing quite well with food processing in Ghana and West Africa. However, what we lack most is innovative packaging. I mean, everybody does mostly plastic jars, plastic sachets, and it doesn't keep the integrity of the product for throughout its entire shelf life. So from the background I have, I understand food packaging, and I know that aside the fact that it is what attracts, it also keeps the nutrient content and also keeps the integrity of the food throughout its shelf life. And that's what I want to offer.
Now, you're a scientist, so this question is not new, but how are you able to maintain the quality products that you have? Because usually when I see a product with really great packaging, the content is terrible. But consistently, like, you rarely find any bad nut in your products. Of course, we have the egusi as well, but how are you able to ensure that your products are consistent? So
my answer to this is systems. I mean, everything boils down to the kind of systems you have in place. And as a technical person, I understand what standard operating procedures are. And so these are a set of guidelines that help you, you know, produce your product. And it doesn't matter who is producing. It could be you, it could be me, it could be production staff. Once you have put down guidelines to produce, I mean, you've guided people as to how to go about this. Whether you're there or not, it's done the same way. So these are standard operating procedures, gives you consistency, make sure that your quality, your safety is always consistent. So they are operating procedures that we use no matter where. If you change our facility, it will still come out the same. If you change our machines, it will still come out the same, because they are systems we put in place and they are validated, and every now and then we are improving it.
It's crazy. I mean, when you go outside of Ghana or the continent, there's this whole movement of looking at the ingredients on your package. And one of the things that really blows my mind about yours is, for instance, when I pick up the cashew, the ingredient is just roasted cashew nuts and salt. No preservatives, none of those things. How are you hoping to leverage this quality product that you have now to really tap into the diaspora market, or even the Western shelves that you discovered this problem from in the beginning, to help the world see what Ghana has to provide in its packaged form, not just our raw materials? Okay,
so I think that there's a huge trend towards eating natural. And I mean, additives and all the other things have their place, and it helps extend product shelf life and all that. However, there's a strong move towards natural ingredients and keeping ingredient lists very, very short and very simple. So for me, that's why I'm leveraging on packaging, and then as much as possible, if you're making sure that everything you're doing is right, you can have very good shelf life as well. I believe that West African foods are very nutritious, and I want to give it to, everybody in the international world as nature intended. I mean, not transforming it too significantly, just minimal processing, so that you can enjoy the real natural, goodness from the earth. And so I believe that whatever you're eating, you must be able to pronounce the ingredients on your packaging. Your great-grandmother should be able to identify the ingredients. If your great-grandma is unable to identify the ingredients, it's not as natural as it is, because in their time, they had very natural things, and they lived longer, and they were healthier and all that. So that's the same thing I'm trying to project. Eat what your grandma would recognize. Simple.
And also, let's look at, I'm going to move away from the cashews because obviously I'm very obsessed with them, but you have the agushi and you also have the peanuts, which is something that we see as a street snack, but you look at companies like Planktus and they've taken it to a whole different level, which I think that you can stand, your product is better because obviously it's all natural, but walk us through the nutritional benefits of the other products that you have and what you have in mind for the future.
Okay. So our current product offering are all predominantly protein-based. So the peanuts, cashews, agushi, all protein-based. Agushi is about 32% protein.
Wow.
And I always say this is a massive storehouse of proteins, because for a single ingredient to give you 32% of protein, that's huge. So for those who are predominantly on protein diets, very low carbs, this is the go-to product for you. So it has very little carbohydrates. It has very good fats and very good minerals and vitamins. And peanuts, as a street snack, you see it every day, tied in little bags, with but then the one on the we have found a way of transforming it into a very beautiful brand that will stand tall with international counterparts anywhere, and rub shoulders anywhere on the Western shelf. So these are predominantly protein, very high in protein, very low carbs, and very good fats. And in fact, nuts have have a lot of minerals like zinc, copper, magnesium, and this also really promotes blood circulation. So if you notice, people really usually attribute nuts and things to male fertility and all that, because anything that promotes,
blood
circulation,
we find a way to.
It has some relationship with male fertility and all that. And that's why people say that.
There are a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs watching you, a lot of young people who thought they would be lawyers, doctors, and are now on a different path. What advice would you give them from your experience?
Okay, so number one, let's do indigenous. Let's do Ghana. Let's do West Africa. That's all we have, and I think that we promote the Western products too much. I mean, there's too much noise about avocado, too much noise about chia seeds, too much noise about pumpkin seeds, too much noise about almonds. But can we now begin to come together and promote our indigenous foods? We want the whole world to know how nutritious our foods are, and let's do us, basically. And the road is not smooth. Okay, there are lots of ups and downs, but I just want to say that let's respect process. That's one thing that I have come to really, really appreciate in my life, and especially when I started business. I mean, there's process in everything. I mean, you have to move from A and transition to B and transition to C. I mean, and between A and B, there are always things that you have to do. You have some failures, you have some successes, and this is what propels you to the next stage. So by all means, let's go through our process. It's difficult, it's tough, but then at the end of the day, you have a beautiful story to tell. And let's learn to tell our own story from where we come from. Let's not, shelf it and allow other people who are foreigners to tell our stories for us, because most of the time it's not a good story that they're telling about us. So let's come together, do our indigenous things, and tell our own story in our own beautiful way and how we know how to do it.
Mildred, Thank you so much for being with us. Where do we follow you on social media? Because where do we get all these goodies?
So you can find us on Instagram, Royal Cedars GH. Please check us out, follow us, like our content. We are also on Facebook, Royal Cedars Limited. You can find us in all the shops, Maxmarts, Marina, ShopRite, Kuala, Bachona Total, Palace, Farmers Market, and then you can contact us directly, 0543 271 579.
Thank you so much for being with us, Mildred.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Every year we hear governments, the government right now is talking about Ghana Cares, the Obatampa program, how we're going to industrialize, and young people like you are doing this, and I hope that they are watching us, they are listening, and they see that all you need is probably a little bit of help to scale this to a point where people in Nigeria are consuming it, people on the continent are consuming it. I see government helping you through AFTA, AGOA, to really get on the store shelves across the country. So thank you.
We look forward to that too. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you at home for staying. Okay, so if you didn't learn anything that we've talked about today, the most important thing is let's focus on our authenticity and projecting the best of Ghana to the world. And wherever you find yourself, there's space for you to grow. She's worked in the FDA, she's a scientist, she's learned a bit of business, and she's been able to create this. So there's absolutely no reason why you can't start from wherever you are with whatever little that you may have.